I am making football-shaped Oreo cookie balls as part of a sponsored campaign with Collective by Simmons advertisers. All opinions remain my own. So far, we have made our cookie ball dough, which is 3 cups of Oreo cookies crushed in the blender and finely pulsed, as well as 8 ounces of softened cream cheese all blended together. I stuck it in the fridge just for a couple minutes so it wouldn't get quite so sticky, and now we're going to make our football shapes. To make the football shapes, you need to get a piece of dough that is approximately the size of a ping pong ball. We're going to roll it into an actual ball, and then we're going to place it down onto our silicone mat, or if you don't have a silicone mat, feel free to use parchment paper or wax paper. And we're just going to flatten it, and as we flatten it, we're going to go ahead and make little ends so that it turns into an oval just like this. We can go ahead and make all of our cookie dough balls just like this, and then we're going to put it in the freezer for 10 minutes before we dip it in chocolate and put on the laces. As you can see, I was able to make 34 of these beautiful footballs from my Oreo cookie ball dough. Had I been a tiny bit smaller and a few more, I could have made an even 36, but this will work for me. Next step is to pop these in the freezer so they get nice and hard and keep their shape when we dip them into chocolate. And we have our footballs nicely hardened now. You can see as I'm pressing on them that they're really not dipping. I also have my chocolate that I melted on the stove until it was most of the way melted, and then I just stirred it in this bowl until everything got the rest of the way melted. Chocolate burns really easily, and you want to keep it tempered, which means it will be nice and shiny when it's done. And if you heat it too much, it will no longer be tempered, and it's very likely to burn. So melt it most of the way, and then just let that residual heat finish it up. So to make our footballs, all we're going to do to dip them is I use a fork, take my football, place it on the fork, dip it all the way down, make sure it gets completely covered. And I'm going to lift it up with my fork and just kind of jiggle it and shake it to get as much excess chocolate off as I possibly can. This will mean that I have a slightly cleaner bottom than I would otherwise, and it also makes sure that the top is nice and smooth and that I'm not wasting chocolate and having to buy even more chocolate to put on here. So once we have it almost all the way done, I'm going to take it, put it over here, and then I just kind of jiggle my fork again to get it off, and that will leave me with a nice clean bottom. Sometimes it'll stick like so, and that will be my football. And all I'm going to do when I'm done, when it dries, is just put the laces on and we're good to go. One other bit of advice I will give is that if you have an item like these Oreo cookie balls that are sticking to your dipping utensil more so than they normally would, use a chopstick. Just take that, and that will keep your finger clean and more easily remove your football from here while leaving still a nice clean edge all the way around. When you are dipping, you want to make sure that you have plenty of chocolate in here. What's going to end up happening is that I'm going to be melting more chocolate as this starts to get low. And I will also keep melting it because these frozen footballs are lowering the temperature of the chocolate pretty readily. And if it lowers too much, it won't be smooth and it won't easily get onto my footballs either. And that's going to be a problem. So instead, I will get some more chocolate and melt more chocolate in here. And then the leftover chocolate that I have, which is the excess, I'm going to make a chocolate bark out of. So maybe I'll crush up some of the extra Oreos from that second package of Oreos that I purchased, or I'll put some candies on there or add some peppermint in there because we're getting close to the holidays. Do something fun with that as well. As these are drying, I'm going to move them from one Silpat to the other one, and at the same time I'm going to do just a little bit of cleanup. Easiest thing for me to do is use a bench scraper, which has a not sharp edge, but it's a very fine edge. So I can just take off just a little bit of the chocolate that might be around some of them and make them look just a little bit prettier. You don't have to do this, but since I want them to look nice, I'm just going to trim them up just a tiny bit. If you don't have a bench scraper, which I will say is one of my very favorite kitchen tools, go ahead and you can just use a small paring knife, but nothing that's too big, so you want to have a lot of control as you're going through and just cleaning them up just a little bit. Okay, we have all of our chocolate Oreo cookie balls covered with chocolate. They have dried. I've trimmed off the edges just a little bit, and then I took some white chocolate and melted it and put it into a bag with a #1 tip, and this is what we're going to use to put on the laces. All we're going to do is just start by drawing a white line down each of our footballs. Doesn't have to be exact. And the one thing I'll tell you is, even though a football has a ton of detail on it, if you look at an actual football, all you need to do is just have a little bit of detail on a decoration like this, and it looks like a football. If you try to put too much on, the detail gets too hard to find, and then it doesn't look as good. Once we have our lines drawn this way, we're going to draw 3 laces in the other direction. You're going to have it so that they're closer together in the center, not so much in the part, but try to have them an equal distance from each other as you're going across and drawing it. Once completed, just serve on your favorite napkin, like this tutorial for a referee napkin I'm sharing on the blog as well, and you're ready to go. What do you think? Leave me a comment below, and if you like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss anything else.